What's really cool about Aaron's presentation is by the time I get done, you will actually believe I paid him to go through what he went through here. Because I want to talk to you about human suffering as it relates to technology. My idea of how computers worked was planted in my brain in the late 60s when I was about 10 years old. The tone was set by Captain James T. Kirk when he would walk up to the computer. Yeah, thank you. And he would say, "Computer," and it would say, "Working." Everything we've done since then has been a compromise. You saw evidence of that earlier. There's a lot of suffering in our industry, and I want to touch on one particular area, particularly the suffering that Aaron just went through. Now get ready. In fact, I'm going to suggest to you that if you really don't want a life-changing moment, you should leave the room now. You remember the scene in The Matrix, right? Morpheus stands in front of Neo and says, "Neo, I have in my hands a red pill and a blue pill. Take the blue pill and you will forget you were ever here." Right? That's your cue to leave the room. Take the red pill and I won't change anything. I will simply reveal the truth. I'm going to reveal a truth to you, a truth that will actually change your lives, and I apologize for the next few weeks, will actually make you a little bit insane. And where's Aaron? Is he still in the room? Because he needs to hear this. I really feel bad for him. All right, we've all had the experience, maybe in a building that we live in, work in, that we visit every day, where we walk up to a door and we push on it and it doesn't move. And we step back a step and we see a ginormous pull sign, right? And at that moment, you all know what you're feeling. You slip through, you realize this is a door you touch every single day, and you feel like a stupid user, right? Because you just figured, I missed the sign. Well, let me free you from that. And this is your life-changing moment. A door shouldn't need a user manual. A door, by its very design, should communicate to you that it should be pushed or pulled. So therefore, the next time this happens, and Aaron, this is for you, I know you just came back in the room. The next time you are tortured by anything, whether it's a door, an Apple computer, a cell phone, a remote, you are free to say, "Stupid design." Now I warn you, if you truly carry that message out the door with you today, you will begin to see dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of stupid design all around you. We've just become used to it and we blame ourselves. It's not your fault. The question is, I love that picture. How do we get here? How does this happen? How do we get to the point where whenever a new piece of software, a new piece of technology comes out, guaranteed you go down to Barnes & Noble's, there's the Dummies series that's coming out right after it. There's all the books and 800-page manuals on how to run your cell phone. There's the training classes that come up at all the different training institutes around. Why? How did we get there? Well, we have to look inside the culture of how these products come to be. And a very serious part of this culture, a very important part of this culture, is homo logicus. You see, Aaron, if you knew how computers worked, everything just happened would make perfect sense to you. You see, homo logicus, while we need really good engineers, and we got plenty of them in Southeast Michigan, we need really good engineers to understand how the computer works, but we need to understand the user doesn't care how the computer works, right? Now, if you've ever had that moment in your lives, I just want to share with you how Homo logicus thinks, because this is my background in life. I have a computer science degree and a computer engineering degree. Have you ever had that moment where you were perhaps working on a PowerPoint presentation for an important presentation, and suddenly the computer crashed, the power went out, and your first fearful thought is, did I hit the save button? Right? Now you think about the popular Microsoft products. Think about what that save icon looks like, just for a second. It looks like a 3.5-inch floppy disk. All right, now work with me here a little bit. How many of you remember 3.5-inch floppy disks? Okay, yeah, there's a few hands that are not going up. Yeah, exact. Punch cards, yeah, thank you. Punch cards were actually more reliable. Now let me tell you why you were worried. You see, at the central part of a computer is the von Neumann architecture. Surrounded by L2 cache and random access memory, being kept alive by a conditioned power supply that's converting alternating current to direct current. You see, you got to keep those bits alive. And until you press that save button, which is going to execute tens of thousands of instructions to transfer all of this out to a spinning hard drive at 7,200 RPMs, do you see what you did wrong? Do you get it? Because that's how the computer works. Okay? Now let me introduce you to the other side of the equation. This is the other 99.93% of planet Earth. We might call them regular human beings. Okay? To them, they don't care how the computer works. I'm reminded of my youngest daughter who was at home with a computer. She had 5 instant message sessions open. She was talking on her cell phone. The television was playing. There was music going on. My wife asked me to dust under the computer monitor, and I asked Sarah to step aside. And she's like, "Dad, I'm working on my homework." And I think she was telling the truth. And I turned off the monitor. She panicked. She threw her arms around. She said, "Dad, you just turned off the computer." And I said, "No, I didn't, honey. I turned off the monitor." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Honey, the computer's that box down on the floor." She looked down there and she said, "Oh, I always wondered what that thing was." Now understand, she knows how to use computers better than I do. Okay? To her, though, the screen is the computer. All right, we need to remember that about Homo consumerists, right? I actually did pay Aaron to go through what he went through here. He did such a great acting job. He appeared frustrated, didn't he? So the question is, what's missing? Where are we at? Is it focus groups and surveys and training classes? And, well, let's face it, you're all stupid users, right? We just need smarter users. Just need a smarter population to use this. And I can assure you it is none of those things. In the spirit of Franz Johansson and the Medici effect, if some of you have read that book, we need something completely new injected into the equation. We need anthropology. And what the heck does anthropology have to do with computing, with software? Well, anthropology is the study of man. It's concerned with culture, social systems, interaction of social systems, symbology, history, artifacts, that sort of thing. One of my favorite anthropologists chose a particular branch of anthropology called primatology. I've been watching some of her TED videos lately. Jane Goodall went to study chimpanzees. And let me tell you, the first place she didn't go was Google. All right? And she didn't go to the zoo to study chimpanzees because at the zoo, they live in the entitlement economy. Right? The food, the paycheck shows up every 2 weeks, right? And at the zoo, they have yet to integrate the cheetah exhibit with the chimpanzee exhibit. Now, you want to generate some more ticket sales, that might actually work. Jane decided to go out where the chimpanzees live. Now, I'm telling you, my 3 daughters have all been to Africa. It's a dangerous place to go. You got to get shots. It's hard. It's a hard world. It's a hard life to get there. And what I've learned from Jane is what I always thought. When she got there, they all disappeared. And so she had to settle in, and she had to get there, and she had to wait until they returned to the forest edge. And I'm guessing when she first saw them, it looked like utter chaos, kind of like the typical office environment. And so, yet when she studied them, what did she find? She found a highly organized society, a hierarchy, subgroups that took care of one thing and another. She's actually watched them. And then eventually she could directly interact with them. If you watch Jane's TED presentations, she can actually speak their language. It's pretty neat to watch. So what do we actually need to do to fix this world of technological suffering? We need to study people. And we need to study them in their native environment. I can't tell you how important this is and how impactful it can be. This is what I do for a living. This is what my organization does, is we go out and study the users in their native environment. Let me share with you just one brief example of how powerful this can be. We worked on a project for a county government for their vital records office. You know, a place you get birth certificates, death certificates, and that sort of thing. Our team came up with the screen designs, and I wanted to see them before they made the final presentation. And on the home screen were all these idyllic pictures of beach scenes and palm trees and white sand beaches and waves lapping out in the water. And I laughed. I said, "These aren't the final screen designs, are they? This is the vital records office for the county government. What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh no, this is really important." I said, "Why? Did they ask for that?" They said, "Oh no, they didn't ask." I said, "Well, how did you know you should put these in?" They said, "Oh, we went to visit them. We studied them in their native environment. And you know, after they got done with the interactions at the counter, they'd go back to their cubes, and there were all these postcards there of all these idyllic beach scenes. And we asked them, we said, 'Oh, you guys in a travel club?' They said, 'No, we've never been to these places.' 'Oh, do friends send you these?' I said, 'No, we just bought them.' And they looked at them and nothing on the back. They were just pinned up all over the place. They said, 'Why the postcards?' They said, 'Oh, you don't understand. We're county employees. You know, customers come in to talk to us. And they're like, I pay your paycheck.' He said, 'Our blood pressure goes up. We'd go back to the cube, and we'd want to settle down a little bit before the next client came in,' right? And so our team saw that, and they put these pictures in the home screen, so while they were standing at the counter, they could have that sort of medicinal effect while they were talking to the client. When we showed those to the end users, literally tears started rolling down their face. They said, 'No one's ever listened to us like that before.' And the point was, we didn't listen at all. We observed. We saw something. We used those empathic skills we all have, and I think the Midwest actually has more of this than most places. So I think we have a natural advantage to improve that world. Let me tell you, I'm very lucky. Back in 1971, I began a relationship with a machine. I sat down, I typed in a 2-line program, I typed the word run, and the computer came back and said, "Hi, Rich." And I was hooked. Just that little 2-line application. I've had my moments of suffering in my life, and I can tell you the joy is back for me. I am an entrepreneur like Aaron, and I can tell you there is great joy in that, because I get to sort of have as great an effect on my destiny as any example I can think of on the planet. I get to attack these problems that, quite frankly, I had a hand in creating for a good portion of my career. It is very possible to change the world and remove stupid design from the world. It requires a lot of work, but what it requires more than anything is empathy, sympathy, and compassion for the people who will actually use the technology that any of us are creating in our lives. I saw a great opportunity. I think you've heard many of the great opportunities have been presented here today. I want to encourage you to think about your great opportunities. What's the missing piece? What's the suffering that's going on in your world, and how can you go after it? And that's my big idea for you. Thank you very much.